Whether you're joining one of our events for the first time or if you're a seasoned regular, welcome to the Customer Marketing Summit. We have an incredible selection of innovative content lined up for you today, but before we dive in, I just want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, speakers and you, our lovely audience, for joining us. From wherever in the world you are watching, we're sure you'll enjoy today's talks. To get the most out of these sessions, please make sure you're asking your questions in the comment section for our speakers to answer. Each of today's sessions recordings will be uploaded into our on-demand content library, which you can access with a CMA Pro membership. As some of you may already know, Customer Marketing Alliance has now launched as its very own community. I'll be sharing the links to check out our new membership and Slack community, so be sure to keep an eye on the chat. With all this to look forward to, let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Welcome from the Customer Marketing Alliance and Customer Marketing Digital Summit. We are about to take you on an anti-fragile approach to marketing. All right, so let us find the wonderful deck. And tell me, Jillian, if this comes up for you. Are we good?
Yes.
All right. We call this also recession-proof marketing. So to start, who's on the call today? You've got me, Ari Hoffman. I'm the VP of Customer Marketing at Influitive, and the wonderful one and only Jillian. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jillian Farquhar. I'm the VP of not that, but formerly Global Customer Marketing at Click, and I'll tell you what I'm doing today when we get into it.
All right. I love it. Yeah, she's got a little bit more coming. So why are we here? There's a lot of uncertainty. Things are scary. I have personally seen a lot of people reaching out, looking for jobs right now. I've seen budgets get cut. I've seen headcounts get cut. I've seen hiring freezes happening. So there's a lot. And what's really scary during these times is when a CMO of an organization has to look at the uncertainty and challenge, they've got to look down and understand, where do we make these cuts? And so today, the idea of today is to prepare you for those conversations and how to proactively have them with your leadership to make sure that your department is thought about in the reorgs and the rebalancing and the restructuring, right, in a way that is much more essential to growth during uncertainty than not. And it's really taking a proactive approach, which is this anti-fragile approach. It's not about just surviving, it's about thriving. And so that's what we're going to get into today. But we're also going to give you the stats and the data to make that case, all right? That is the point of today. And I love this line, right? Trying to predict the future is hard. Preparing for every future is better. And that's today. It's not how do you survive, because we don't know if we're actually going into a recession. But how are we acting? We're acting like it's pretty imminent, aren't we? Because if you look at these stats from Pavilion, and I just updated some of these, in July, 68%, that's basically 70% of all companies missed their revenue targets. This is all B2B and B2C companies missed their revenue targets. 65% in August missed. So down 3%, which is good, but still off when you're having almost 70% of all companies missing the revenue targets. 50% responded that they're adjusting down their revenue targets. Right? Why are we adjusting them down? So we can make them, right? And so that we can show there's an improvement and that we're readjusting to this new world that we live in, whether it's going into recession or not, there is that uncertainty. So marketing generated leads are lower. You know, this is a great screenshot slide for everyone who's on this call. 26% of respondents, so over a quarter of respondents reported they'd laid off employees. August being the biggest month for reported layoffs in all of 2022, right? That's a lot. That's happening. That's real. Market conditions have prompted 2/3 of companies to have stopped or paused hiring, and 1 in 5 have now experienced layoffs. So what do we want to take from this? The big idea is that we need to build up our immunity, not just hunker down, right, for the winter. We don't just want to throw a blanket on and sit by the fire. It's not time to do that. It's time right now to get up, to exercise your muscles, to really get in shape for what's to come. So we want to build, and I made this quote because I love it so much. We want to build up our collective immune systems. That's how ecosystems emerge tougher, healthier, and more prosperous than before. So even though there's all this uncertainty, what we want to do is say, hey, how do you not only survive? This is how you thrive during this uncertainty. Here are the exact ways and areas to focus on. And that's what we're going to get into. So another stat that is excellent, Forrester came out with their new B2B revenue waterfall. And if you look at this slide, there's some great things that you can pull out of it. There's some things that we can unpack later, but the good part about this that you really want to look at if you're on the customer marketing and advocacy side of the house is this. You look at our revenue waterfall, this light green area is net new revenue from net new logos. If you look here, all the revenue in the darker shades of green is coming from your existing install base, right? From retention revenue to upsells and cross sells. So net new revenue also coming. If you look at the net new revenue coming from your existing install base, that still upsells your net new logo acquisition. All right. Just the upsell and cross sell, not your retention. Forget what you're sticking with already, but your upsells and cross sells, that expansion revenue is really upselling. And so this is huge. When you look at it, really takes 3/4 of your budget. And if you break it down, this happens across the board. So this is a great slide to really say, hey, this is why we need to focus on where the dollars are, right? Instead of putting a ton of energy and raising your customer acquisition costs to focus on the acquisition side, we really need to focus. And Gartner's been saying this, right? This is Forrester. Gartner's been saying this for 10 years now. You're 17 times more likely to sell to an existing customer than a net new. We know this. So what has happened in this part of the economy is we've gone back, especially with COVID, we've gone back to all of our customer marketing teams. We've hired a bunch of net new people into the industry and given them no budget to do anything, right? But we said, we've got to exercise this muscle that we don't know how to use, and we're not going to give you any money to go get a gym membership. So that's what we're going to keep going. I know I have a lot of ridiculous analogies. The point is, when you look at your entire customer market, or you look at your entire marketing team and your entire org, what's at the center of it all, right? Product, sales, customer success, support, demand gen, content, events, social media. Who feeds it all? Who feeds it all? Your demand gen team isn't feeding a ton back to your product team and to your customer success team, but your customer marketers are. So Jillian's going to get into something later about having to exist together that I think is very important. I'm going to take the hard angle of always fighting for customer marketing number one. Jillian's going to show what real leadership does and why she is who she is as we come up. And so let's get into that a little bit. I think that's a good transition. Jillian, talk a little bit about your past and where you are today.
Sure. First of all, I loved all of that info. I think it's really important that we have as many data-driven conversations as we can when we're meeting with, decision makers in our organizations and budget owners. So using those slides, I think, is a really good place to have those conversations about rebalancing your budgets, et cetera. So I mentioned I'm Jillian Farquhar. I kind of grew up at Click. I've been at Click for 13 years. But prior to that, I really grew up in traditional B2B PR. I came from the agency world. I went on to run communications at a company called eGenera, a company that you probably know called Red Hat. And then I came to Click, and I sort of worked my way across many different functions and titles. And I actually started the customer marketing function at Click about 7 years ago. And grew that team from me to about 20, 25 people, depending on, where we were and what year we were in, but we ended up around 25. And today I'm actually have moved officially into a strategy role, which is bizarre, but sort of wonderful. And I think, one of the things I always have said to my teams and to myself has been, the closer you are to the customer, the more valuable you are to the business. And so it's funny, as people sort of ascend in the ranks within marketing, sometimes you get further from the customer. And
Right.
quite honestly, that's, not where you want to be. So what I'm trying to do is endeavor to stay as absolutely close as possible to our customers. I'm just taking that approach in a much more broad way. So not just looking at marketing sort of outcomes and impacts, but looking across our organization and trying to bring our customer perspective into our entire customer journey, from sort of the R&D process all the way through and up to where the license or where the SaaS tenant is deployed.
Right.
And that is where I'm at now. So my new title is Vice President of Global Transformation Market Readiness, which is quite a mouthful, but you can just call me Jillian, and we'll go from there.
I think what Jillian is a little too humble to say is she was so badass at her job as VP of customer marketing. She had such a clear focus on why customer marketing was so valuable that the company said, we need to take that kind of focus and spread it across our entire digital strategy. How do we need to do this better? And so she got moved to the corporate strategy side, which is like that shows, right, the thoughtfulness that came and grew up with her focus on the customer first, right? She puts the customer at everything, central operating system for all of our strategies. So it's wonderful to have you here. I'm so honored
Thank you.
to have you sharing part of your story. And I'm going to go ahead and take us to the next dink slide. So this is what we're focusing on, right? This is what Jillian's going to break us into. These are the 5 pillars that we really want to focus on today. And I'll let Jillian kind of talk about them in a second, but I'm just going to introduce them. So the first is focus on community. Second is champion authentic stories. The third is rally your employees, and she'll get into exactly why. 4, mobilize your advocates. And 5, level up customer marketing. This one's the nearest and dearest to my entire heart on this whole story, but all of them are valuable. And Jillian, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thanks. So, Ari and I have talked through these threads for a little while now. And one of the things that stays really static in them is the complete need to focus on community. And what I mean by that is, in the customer marketing world, in the marketing stack overall, a lot of companies will approach their conversations with customers in a one-way sort of fashion, and putting your content out there and hoping that someone somewhere decides to consume it or share it is a terrible strategy. So community really has to underpin everything that you do in customer marketing or any sort of customer experience work. And that is because not only do you want to try to deepen the relationship that you have with your customers, but you actually want to expose your customers to other users, other customers. And the benefit of community is allowing those organic relationships to happen in a space that you control or offer as a benefit. And so community is it is no longer a nice to have. Obviously, you must have it. In fact, if you think about the way that people buy anything today, where do they go first? I mean, they go to Google, and then they go to a trusted source, whether it's a person or a community of forums, et cetera, or they go to a product review site. And that's the idea behind community, is that when you expose users to each other,
yes,
not only will you as a brand get the benefit of those connections, but they actually solve a lot of their problems without any intervention from the brand. And we have found at Click, we invested about 4 years ago now, reinvested in our community strategy, and it completely changed our approach to customer centricity. We did it. I said years ago, if we do this right, then eventually all sort of the key components of our business will be built into our community. And that is what has happened. So today, our, support ticketing goes right through community. Our ideation goes through community. Our advocacy platforms go through community. Our event strategy goes through community, et cetera. And so it's a great place to start. It's also a great way to anchor your customer centric programs and the way you think about customer marketing.
So one thing I want people to focus on here is Jillian listed off 5 different areas that go through their community. She didn't just say our support ticketing software. Your community is not just a support center. This is a place, this is the hub for all of your activities. This is a hub for, it's the heart of your organization.
We actually call it the heartbeat of Click. Our community is the heartbeat of Click. And I knew that was aspirational when we refocused on the strategy around community, but today I, really feel confident saying that it is the heartbeat. Sorry to interrupt, Ari, but I got excited that you actually used my word.
No, you did it, and it's because it's true, right? And if the heartbeat, it's the heartbeat of your community, your advocacy portal is the blood that pumps through it. So here, number 2.
Well, authenticity is big. I mean, that's a word that I use a lot in both sort of the way I think about my leadership and as well as the way we think about how we interact with our customers and how we allow them to tell their stories. I think as customer marketers, the first, when someone asks, well, what is your main commitment to the business? I always think about it as we activate and then expose our customers out into the market, out into the places where decisions are being made, right? And so if you think about that as your model, and you can, put any amount of emphasis you want on that, authenticity is the reason why those stories are either ingested and then reshared or ignored. And so I think it's a brand that, as a brand, you have to be confident that allowing your customers to tell their real stories, and that includes some of the, challenges that go into using your technology or working with a partner's technology, et cetera. Those are part of the story. And if you allow your customers, your users, your partners to tell the real pieces of their stories, those are always going to be more credible and more shareable than something that, our amazing copywriters would come up with on their own. And so authenticity isn't just for customer storytelling. I think it's for the way, we think about it as a real strength of our entire marketing function, really our entire business. Authenticity with customers, allowing them to tell their stories, is a lot more compelling than anything we could do. And our job is to, shine a light on those and expose and activate those customers back out into the market. And that, if you can do that, the rest comes along with it. So allowing people to be, authentic in their video testimonials. I really love the model of allowing your customers. We use Influitive for the upshot stories, which is the customer authored bylines. We find that those are far, far more compelling for shareability between our users than anything that we produce from a case study perspective. We do both, of course. But anyway, that allows the customer to tell their story in their own voice, and that is really credible. So we believe in this as a core value of our marketing function at Click, and just the way that we invest in the conversations we have with customers.
I love also a point I want to pull out from what Jillian said here was, it's not just customer stories, though those are amazing and those are great. If you look at the list down below, product feedback loops, if you can help inform your product team, you are going to create allies across the organization, right? Create simple ways for people to give feedback, to vote on features, to do that. If you're able to do that, and they can actually authentically feel ownership over the direction of your product, right? They're going to buy in more to the programs that you're running. And then your company is going to love you more for helping direct and steer the ship. You're becoming much more strategic, right? As an organization, if you do that. So really championing authentic stories is the entire journey, right? It's not just the marketing materials that come out of it. So just something I wanted to point out there. Number 3.
Rally your employees. I mean, I think, we were talking about this earlier. Everyone wants to feel like they're with a winner, work for a winner, date a winner, married to a winner, whatever. And I think, customers and how a customer reaches success with your product, your service, is a great way to demonstrate and sort of share that feeling of winning amongst your colleagues. And so your advocacy efforts can't just be around pushing out or exposing these stories just out to, outside of your organization. You should actually, get your own employees to absorb them and be excited about them, and then have them be able to organically share and feel like they're with a winner. And that enthusiasm then comes out in the kind of activities in their, social platforms, and their sharing. Instead of looking like an army of bots, hopefully your employees are just as excited as you are as a customer marketer to put out something that a customer said about your technology, your product. I think, Click, we could do better at this. And I think that's one of the areas that the team will be looking at going forward, to really partner with our comms team and our amazing social media experts, so that we can authentically rally our employees. We're not interested in exposing sort of the army of bots of people saying, check this out, but really trying to internalize and having folks feel excited about the wins that we're having and the value, hopefully, that we provide to customers. So I think, again, I think feeling like you're with a winner, you work for a winner, is a big part of the psychology of weathering economic uncertainty and sort of the tumult that we're all exposed to. And it can really keep people focused on the good things that you're producing for customers. And that's always positive.
It's huge. And I think, Jillian, you absolutely drew on something that is critically important here, which is, this is not just a rinse and repeat, turn all your employees into an army of bots who just go and say the same thing, who just reshare the same thing. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about using systems and strategies that leverage your authentic voice of your employees, just like your customers. That authenticity, if they do that, if they start doing it and they feel like they're working at a winner, you have that ownership, that improves every function of your company and makes all of your efforts, right? It's the lubrication to everything that you're doing. It helps move all of your body parts at the same time. Your joints will all work better when all of your employees feel like they're co-owning this voice that's going out to the world. All right, I keep doing that. Number 4.
I mean, mobilize your advocates. I told Ari I probably wouldn't go down this rat hole. I'm going to just say one thing. Advocates is not my favorite way to describe a connected customer that is repeating or espousing your own, your values and your value from a product perspective. I like to use other words. I mean, we just call them customers, but I understand for the purposes of this, you're trying to differentiate that you're taking your very connected, hopefully successful, delighted customers and exposing them out into the market, out into the various channels that are important to the way that your users buy, and doing it in an organized way. And I think this sort of is bleeding into the next one that we'll get to in a second, but it's about how your install base, your existing customers, your delighted users, they affect every single revenue generating function within your company. They will affect, obviously, how much exposure a net new logo has coming into your business. Certainly, it's new buying centers within existing customers, using those great customers and generous with their time to close deals, etc. But the trick here is you can't just say, great, we'll go ahead and start to do that in a willy-nilly way. You actually really have to be organized about it. And a lot of that discipline in mobilizing your install base and your delighted users has to do with getting budget, getting resources, and getting really organized about your plans and your KPIs. So I'm sort of leading into the next one, but I think maybe it's apropos.
Yeah, I will say one thing here is, getting budget, getting resources. When she says resources, you can't scale just by adding headcount. You're going to need every single group within your organization that is scaling itself from demand gen to customer success has a tool. Mm-hmm. You need a tool to be able to scale. That tools do not solve your problems. So you can't buy a tool and expect it to be magic pixie dust. It's not going to solve. You have to have the program strategy there. but you cannot scale that strategy without hiring an army of heads, which you know you're not going to get. You need a tool. And so that's one of the big points on here of what we're going to move into on this next slide, which is level up your customer marketing. Jillian's got a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I always say, and maybe I said this earlier, even that, all roads at a company where you're being really successful in your marketing overall, I feel like all roads go through customer marketing. And in my experience, strictly speaking from the Click perspective, when I looked at sort of the marketing mix, and as I got more confident in my leadership and as sort of, leveled up my own career, I was, more armed to have conversations about balancing budget dollars around different marketing tactics. I don't own, digital engagement. I don't own our event strategy, but I knew that our install base marketing was far below what we needed it to be effective. And so looking for ways to have those strategic conversations with your decision makers at your company to say, look, let's just look at the revenue facts. And of course, it's going to be different for every business, but from our perspective, a huge amount of our revenue comes from our install base. And then our, just how much money it costs to bring in a net new logo versus how to convert or modernize an existing customer. I mean, it's just math. And so I really asked for a rebalancing over time, and not immediately, but over time, to grow the headcount that we needed to deal with our install base, to really create programs that were impacting their experience, that would allow them over time to organically begin to advocate, which is, in my world, it's a verb, for us on our behalf. And the wins are with us, right? Like, this is the time. Customer marketing is an incredibly economically attractive model to invest in now, because it's much less expensive than a media buy or a big agency line item. It is a organic, relationship building, strategic way of thinking about and engaging your customers. And to do that, you have to have some of those tougher conversations with your CMO or whoever owns the budget for customer install base at your company, and ask for that rebalancing or that beginning of a rebalancing process. And I would say it was not a light switch at Click, but over the 7 years that we started customer marketing and then, got it to where it is today, that is a much more balanced approach. You have to coexist with the other great parts of marketing and B2B marketing in particular, around brand and digital and web, et cetera. And coexisting is something you have to learn how to do. And but don't be afraid to ask for that rebalancing, and really be real about where your revenue is coming from and how customer marketing can augment that for you.
Yeah, what you just made me think of literally as hearing you talk, because every time Jillian and I go through this, we talk about it a little differently. Every time it brings up new stories, reminds us of new things. And what you just made me think of that's so incredibly important is today, you're going through a lot of the listener and the audience right now, you're going through a lot of sessions. Some are very tactical, which are great. How do you get more reviews? How do you build a customer awards program? Why this is so important. You might be saying, well, yeah, this is all great and all, but I need to get my programs done. Is you will continue to spin the wheels harder and harder. Even if your programs get better, you're still not going to be able to scale them unless you know how to have these hard and strategic conversations. And when I say hard, I don't mean like they need to be hard, like a challenge or you're confronting someone, but it's addressing real issues. And change is always a little bit rough around the edges, and that's okay. But you want to be able to come in with the stats, with the data, with the knowledge and the language to speak to your executives so that they hear you and make actionable change. And it might not be overnight, but you're starting to set the road map for yourselves, right? And what you're doing in the background is those programs are getting better, right? You're proving your value as you're doing that, and you're able to have these conversations. So you're going to not only level up your programs, but yourself within your organizations. I think we've really covered it head to head. I was going to give an example here, but I don't even think it's needed. What I would love to do is open it up for Q&A, and knowing that, Jillian, thank you so much. I think we went over a little, so we don't have a lot of time for Q&A, but we do want to open it up just in case. And thank you all so much. And Jillian, I'm just going to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for helping.
Thank you for having me. I love coming to talk to you all, and go Influitive, go Click.
All right.
These days, authentic customer reviews, referrals, and references are what buyers trust and value most when making purchasing decisions. That's where Influitive comes in. We're the advocacy, community, and engagement platform of choice for the world's most customer-obsessed brands, including Adobe, Cisco, IBM, and Mountain Dew. Our advanced targeting, personalization, gamification, and rewards drive extreme engagement and customer growth at scale. Let Influitive help you turn your customers into loyal advocates and grow your business.